details have to go in the emails.
Morning, I'm Brian Chung, he, they. I'm the music director here at OBUUC. I just wanted to give a brief introduction about this piece because we're going to be singing it in German. So I'll go through the German words and give you a rough translation of what it means so you're in the know of what's going on here. So the song is called Ausstimmet die Saiten by Buxtehude, who is a Baroque composer from a long time ago. So the words are this: Ausstimmet die Saiten, which means tune the strings. In this case, the choir will tune their vocal cords for you. Gott Phoebus tritt ein. Phoebus is the German name for Apollo, which is the Greek god for music. He is entering, god Apollo is entering. Dies Fest auch begleiten, to accompany the feast that we'll be celebrating this Thanksgiving. Mit güldenem Schein, the feast with golden sheen. Auflasset durch Singen, rise, let us by singing. Das Wünschen erklingen, sound those wishes as the dulcet time requires of us. So von uns erfordert die liebliche Zeit. Die unsere Seele, for which our soul, vollkommen erfreut, wholeheartedly delights. This translation was given to us by our own Greta Monroe, so thank her when you see her.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Olympia Brown Unitarian Universalist Church. Welcome to everyone here in person and everyone joining us on YouTube, both now and in the future. I am Carolyn Churchill. My pronouns are she, her. Our welcome words from Christian Schmidt. Chalice lighting words. My mistake. That would be you. Yes, I am. Welcome again.
You know, when you serve a place for a long time, you know the rhythm, but you don't always know the rhythm in a place. I believe Lincoln is lighting our chalice. Hi, Lincoln. We give thanks for the fruits of the season, for the labor of all those who harvest them, and for the abundant and generous earth. May the power that brings forth good things from dirt and the spirit that grows each time we give and receive be in us and with us today and all this Thanksgiving week. With gratitude for the gifts of life, come, let us worship together. And if you would rise in body or spirit, we're going to sing hymn number 1010, and there's an additional verse, and it's in your order of service. Wait. Gregory has something to say, or tell me. For this precious day. And I say too, apologies. We didn't really understand that people had to be notified that they needed to get both hymnals. If you didn't get the gray hymnal ahead of time, you might want to scoot over and get it now. Otherwise, I'm going to turn this over to Leanne.
So now it's time for the message for all ages. So if all the children and those young at heart can come on forward. So this morning's book is called The Thanksgiving Door. And there's some really beautiful images in this book, and there's a lot of stuff going on. So while I'm telling you the story, you're really going to want to look at the pictures, because there's a lot of stuff going on. Thanksgiving Day, Ed and Ann were home alone. And then, oh no, Ann burned the dinner. Ann felt plain awful because she'd ruined Thanksgiving. She decided that she had to iron clothes. But Ed was hungry. Let's go see if the new restaurant down the street is open, Ed said. Oh, all right, said Ann, but it won't be the same. The door to the New World Cafe was open. Hooray, said Ed. He quickly hung up their coats. Ann said, is this a Thanksgiving table decoration? This looks like a pilgrim and an Indian, but who's the dancing man with the beard? Do you see him in the middle? And it also looks like well, you can't really see him. There's dancing men right there. And it also looks like he's got a Persian tower there. It's not like what you'd see normally for Thanksgiving. I'm not sure that we should be here, Ed. Nonsense, replied Ed. Their door was open. Many unhappy eyes peered through the kitchen door. "This is horrible," Leon whispered. "Who left the front door open? We can't have customers today. Our party will be ruined." "Let's get rid of them," said Tatiana. "I'll bang these pots together. The noise will scare them away." Grandmother had heard all that she could bear. She dropped her peeled potato into the pot and said, "Enough. In old country, we bang pots at wolves, not hungry people. Today is Thanksgiving Day. Family cooks turkey big as a doghouse. But we don't share? Bah." She shook her head. "Grandmother is right," said Olga. "Go get some chairs." Olga showed Anne and Ed to the best seats at the table. Aunt Sophia brought 2 more table settings. Grandmother said, "Happy Thanksgiving. Welcome, welcome. We're glad that you're here." And that's how Anne and Ed found themselves guests of honor as this family celebrated their first Thanksgiving in the New World Cafe. After dinner, Ed asked for a check, but everyone pretended not to understand. "No, no, no. We dance now. Please stay." Anne and Ed had never heard of a family dancing on Thanksgiving, but they were having such a good time they just said yes. Ed followed the men upstairs to help move tables out of the way. Anne stayed with the women and got to hold the new baby, Sonia. Uncle Carl struck up the band and the young dancers got things started. Soon everyone joined in. Even Ed, who had never danced a lick in his life, kicked up his heels. Anne loved to dance. She knew all the steps. She taught everyone the conga. In no time, they were dancing in one huge conga line. What a hit. It was really late when Anne and Ed said their goodbyes. Grandmother gave Anne a table decoration. Papa and Ed traded hats. Anne gave her telephone number to Sonia's mother in case she ever needed a babysitter. And they all said, "Thank you for making this such a very special Thanksgiving." When it was time to lock up the cafe, Papa could not get the front door to close. When he looked down, he found a raw potato jammed under the door. "How did that stupid thing get there?" he asked. "In old country, Thanksgiving door is like happy heart, opened up wide and big. Potato good for that," Grandma said. "You're right," Papa said. When they got home, Anne lit the candle from the cafe and made tea. "What are you most thankful for on this wonderful Thanksgiving?" she asked. Ed thought. Many things crossed his mind, but what was he most thankful for? "Well," he said, I guess I'd have to say, my dear, that I'm most thankful that you burned our dinner." "Oh, Ed," Anne said, "me too." Okay, now it's time for the children's blessing. We are blessed. We are blessed by being here. We are blessed by being here together.
Now it's time for the offertory. November's offertory outreach recipient is the Sienna Retreat Center. The Sienna Retreat Center has nurtured spiritual renewal in southeast Wisconsin since 1966. Founded by the Racine Dominicans, their programs reflect their commitment to justice and holistic spirituality. Serving adults from diverse backgrounds, they welcome participants of any or no spiritual faith background, offering opportunities and connection. Funds from the OBUUC Offertory Outreach will expand their scholarship program, ensuring retreats are accessible to those facing financial barriers. Donations help participants grow and contribute to a just and compassionate world. Part of being in community is sharing our joys and our sorrows with one another. We draw strength from celebrating the joys in each other's lives and lending support, comfort, and care when we experience one of life's many sorrows. We offer you two different ways to express the joys and sorrows may have on your heart this morning, spoken and unspoken. If you would like to share a spoken joy or sorrow, I'll ask you to come forward to the microphone first, and you may raise your hand and the microphone will be brought to you. I'm not sure we have that option. Once the spoken joys and sorrows are finished, you may come forward and light a candle to represent the unspoken joy or sorrow that is on your heart. Please remember that our service is being streamed online, so please be sure that any spoken joy or sorrow you share is one you are comfortable sharing with a wider community than just inside these walls with us this morning. Those that would like to share spoken joys or sorrows may come forward at this time. I would like to begin, and I'd like to say a special good morning and welcome back to our Reverend Lori Laban. She was in our internship program, I believe, way back in the day, and that's when we got to know her. And of late, she's been serving a congregation in South Carolina. Welcome, Lori. Any other?
For those who don't know me yet, I'm a newest member of your church, quite member. But I have two sorrows. One is pretty bad. I'm Don Bogusowski. First I have is, I don't like to read news, hear news much because it's bad lately. It's all you hear is bad news, but not too good news. But there was one I heard about. An incident happened, I don't know what state it was, but it was due to road rage. There was an 11-year-old that got shot and killed due to road rage. The kid was with his parent on the way to school, or coming home from school, and it was road rage, and the guy shot the kid and killed. So keep him in prayers for the 11-year-old. The other one was some kids were injured at a high school in some state by a bear. There was a bear attack. 11 kids that were attacked by a bear. No one was killed, but they were seriously injured. And the bear was, they warned the bear off using pepper spray. So keep those in mind. And I guess I have one joy. I recently joined a chorus in Milwaukee, and we have our Christmas concert coming at 103 members in the chorus, and it's just they are so accepting and welcoming. It's like lesbian, some gay members are in the chorus, but they treat you like your own brothers. So.
Good morning, I'm Mary Graham, and it's been a hard week. On Tuesday, we buried my Auntie Barb, who was the last of my parents' generation. And there was some joy at that, though, because all of the cousins came from Texas and Virginia and Washington, and so it's that thing of, oh, too bad we just don't get together and it's not a sad occasion, because we still had some fun. And then on Friday was the second anniversary of losing my brother-in-law, Dave, to the glioblastoma. But we also got to golf one day this week, so that helps.
Good morning, Mark Summer. I got a joy this morning today. So Abby and I got married 12 years ago today, so it's our anniversary. And also a little joy for Abby. So she, even though it's like our anniversary, she's down in a Star Trek convention in Chicago right now. She's probably enjoying herself maybe more than she would be if she was here with me. But
Hi, I'm Naoki Nakamura. I would like to thank everybody in this congregation for supporting our guest family. In January, we will be supporting them. We have supported them for 4 years, and they have come a long way. They're still safe. We don't know what will happen, but the 2 kids are here today. As you have seen, they have grown quite a bit. And so thank you very much. We really appreciate your help. Okay.
morning, everybody. My name is Trisha Lewis, she, her, and I have a collection of joys, all of them theater related. Last weekend, my daughter was in the production of Flat Stanley Jr. at the Theater Guild, so it was wonderful to see her on that stage in a main production. My kid, Malcolm, is not here today because he's in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe at Gilmore this weekend. He's a scared raccoon. It's delightful. And then my husband Tim's going to be in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang at the Theater Guild this winter as well. So this is a winter of me getting to be the best audience member I can possibly be, right? Turn off my phone, clap when I'm supposed to, you know, it's delightful. But it's a joy to see them blossom and find their theater family and express themselves on stage and just do what they love doing. So that's one of my joys this year.
If you would like to light a candle for an unspoken joy or sorrow, you may come forward at this time. We light one final candle for the joys and sorrows that are on the hearts of our beloveds joining us online. Now, if you would join me in singing, "There is a Love." The words are in your order of service. For our first reading today, it's from David Schwartz. He continues, he says, "As a child, I was taught the Disney version of Thanksgiving. In a time of uncertainty, despair, and suffering, the colonizers were a people of gratitude and hope. And this is true and beautiful and incomplete. The real story of colonization and Thanksgiving reveals our nation at its best and its worst. Not just an aspiration to freedom from tyranny, but also theft, violence, and hate. Not only a wish to say we before I, but also a ruthlessly narrow definition of who we includes. In every generation forward from 1621, the colonizers failed to adequately answer, who is this American freedom for? You know the history, the ethnic cleansing and the genocide of native peoples, a national constitution founded on race slavery, immigrants imprisoned in concentration camps on our southern border, and in many cities, state-sponsored segregation drew the lines of neighborhood boundaries and freeway systems. 4 centuries have carved a system of white supremacy into the lives of this continent. We are, each of us, ordinary people living ordinary lives through extraordinary times and with extraordinary faith, remembering the whole and difficult past because we believe in the future, living on the threshold between ancestors and generations still to come. We are the inheritors of our liberty, of hard-fought freedoms, won with the sweat and the labor and the blood and the lives of the generations before us. We are a people committed to winning the freedoms our own ancestors could not make real or could not even see as necessary. A people who believe that the faith we profess must be made real and alive in the shape of our living together.
Thank you, Carolyn. And I realize that I have neglected to introduce myself. I am the Reverend Lori Gorgas-Laban, and my pronouns are she, her, and I was the intern here from 2008 to 2009. So that's a while back. And I am pleased to be with you again this morning. Now, I know many of us have plans to be with family or friends for Thanksgiving this week, but there's another event this week. I'm not talking about Black Friday. The United American Indians of New England will celebrate with a National Day of Mourning, as they have since 1970. For many indigenous people, Thanksgiving is a day to remember loss, the loss of land, the loss of culture, and the loss of people to colonization. The settling of this country where we live today was based on something called the Doctrine of Discovery, which was based on proclamations from popes issued in the 15th century, declaring that Christian countries had the right to claim territory that was discovered and subjugate any indigenous population to bring them into the Catholic faith, because that was the Christian faith at the time. Now, historians disagree on whether this was ever considered law by European countries, but we know that when Columbus landed in the New World in 1493, he did claim the territory for God and for Spain, in that order. Now, over the centuries, we know that waves of ships and explorers arrived on these shores, claiming some land for the country from which they came and for God. The Dutch, my people, and the English religious sect known as Puritans or Pilgrims came in the early 1600s. And over time, some immigrants established relationships with indigenous groups. And some groups like the Wampanoag helped the Puritans in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. And as the Europeans established communities moving farther west, they uprooted the first peoples and forced them onto undesirable land. Now, in this same time period, beginning in 1619, the first enslaved people from Africa arrived. And over 150 years later, the Constitution of the United States, as Carolyn shared, did codify white supremacy into the very fabric of our nation. People of color were specifically barred from many of the rights and responsibilities of citizenship. Now, I'm not trying to make anyone feel guilty, but to help us to remember that nothing is all good. One of the ideas, and I don't know what's been happening in Wisconsin, but in South Carolina it was pretty vicious, moves to ban books and restrict academic curricula. One of the ideas behind that is critical race theory. Now, this is a legal framework that says systemic racism is part of all American society, and it's used by lawyers and those training to be lawyers to analyze laws. It was developed by legal scholars in the 70s and 80s after the gains of the civil rights movement, and it was a response to the so-called colorblind society that was supposed to be created by the Civil Rights Act and the Voter Rights Act. What opponents mean by the term, though, is anything that presents people of color in a positive light or exposes the violent colonization of this country. There were bills proposed in South Carolina, I don't know about here, that would prescribe teaching only history that glorified European conquest and settling of the country and specified which textbooks could be used. The history of the enslaved? Forget about it. The history of the people who were here when the Europeans arrived and are still here? Forbidden. The history that we actually put our own citizens in concentration camps during World War II? We don't want to hear about that. So as we celebrate Thanksgiving and remember to count our blessings and be fully thankful, I have so much to be thankful for. Let us remember our whole history and retain some humility. For our good fortune has been bought at the expense of others. We are, each of us, ordinary people leading ordinary lives through extraordinary times. And with extraordinary faith, we must remember the whole and difficult past in order for there to be a future. Carolyn?
Our second reading this morning comes from Bruce T. Marshall. He writes, "Let me suggest an image, a table, a long table, where people gather to eat. It doesn't have to be fancy, with expensive china and chandeliers hanging above. In fact, it's better to be less imposing, maybe a picnic table outdoors on a warm day." He writes, when I was growing up in central Illinois, we often had summer dinners outside. My mother and father, sister and I, and my grandmother, who lived upstairs, gathered at the picnic table outside for dinner. Dinners outside were different. The air was fresher, you could breathe deeply, conversation came more easily, and it often continued after the food was gone. We could relax, we could be ourselves. Usually, it was just the five of us at the picnic table for dinner, but sometimes there were visitors, relatives, a friend, someone new to town who my parents thought to invite. To accommodate them, we brought out more tables and set them in a row. On one such occasion, a visiting relative from Germany had his first encounter with watermelon. He explained in surprise, "I have never tasted anything so wet." All right, let's return to our imagery again. What I am envisioning for this imaginary meal is a table with plenty of room. We'll set places for each person we expect, and we'll put out a few extra place settings for others who might arrive unannounced. Isn't that a little frightening to include strangers? Well, yes, it can be uncomfortable, strangers at our table. In our lives today, we are taught to fear strangers. Turn on the TV or the online news or read the paper, strangers blow up airplanes, compete with us for our jobs, steal our money. We devote considerable energy to protecting ourselves from those who aren't like us. So here we're welcoming them to our table? But this is radical hospitality. Hospitality that returns us to the roots. And the roots of hospitality involve not just inviting friends and family, not just those who share our outlook and values, but also strangers, outcasts. In radical hospitality, we greet the stranger. We invite them into our lives, even though it can be uncomfortable. We honor that person's worth and dignity and our own as we open ourselves to who they are, what their stories are, how life looks like through their eyes. We stretch ourselves to accommodate this stranger's view of the world. Even the stranger deserves to be heard, has value, and receives welcome.
For we were once all strangers, weren't we? In the first reflection, I referenced the mythos around Thanksgiving. And how many of us learned the story of how the Pilgrims were woefully unprepared for the life in the New World. The only way many survived was because the Wampanoag people shared their food with the European settlers, teaching them the ways of hunting and gathering and planting. The first Thanksgiving is often described as a peaceful meal shared in gratitude, and that's partly true. And now we celebrate abundance and generosity on the third Thursday in November, and some of us make a point of inviting others to share the meal, the day. And the classic Thanksgiving ideal at one time was summed up in this image. You can see a happy family gathered around the table. The matriarch is setting the perfectly roasted turkey on the table as the patriarch looks on, preparing to do the carving at the table. Well, I notice they're all white. And he's got a suit coat on. In my experience, the carving of the turkey is best done in the kitchen. You would think if he was preparing to carve the turkey at the table, he would at least take that suit coat off and roll up his sleeves. But you may recognize this painting as one of 4 done by Norman Rockwell back in 1943, inspired by President Franklin Roosevelt's 4 Freedoms speech. Roosevelt spoke of these freedoms to remind citizens why we were involved in a world war, what we were defending with our sacrifices. My parents lived through the World War II. My father fought in it. I heard about it a lot. These freedoms, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom from want, and freedom from fear. And this painting was to symbolize freedom from want, that there was abundance and plenty. Now, the Saturday Evening Post published the images of Rockwell's paintings along with essays that they specially commissioned to accompany each one. And the essay for this painting was written by a Filipino-American immigrant, novelist, and poet named Carlos Bulosan. And in it, Bulosan extolled the vision of the American dream, where every person was free and every person was equal. Yet he wrote, quote, "Freedom is not an intangible thing. When we have enough to eat, then we are healthy enough to enjoy what we eat. Then we have the time and ability to read and think and discuss things. Then we are not merely living, but also becoming a creative part of life. It is only then that we become a growing part of democracy," end quote. Words which, when I read them, seemed to have new resonance with the threat to SNAP benefits. Now, Bulosan was born in 1913, and he came to the United States at the age of 17, fleeing economic hardships at home. The work he was able to obtain here was menial, migrant farm work or dishwashing, and he became a labor activist. In his early 20s, he was hospitalized for nearly 2 years with tuberculosis. He spent that time reading and writing, and his work began to be published. But in the 1950s, he was blacklisted as a communist for his labor organizing work, and he died in 1956 of malnutrition and pneumonia. Bulasan and so many others continue to sacrifice to make their way to this country, the land of opportunity, the land of plenty. Immigrants often flee hardship and unrest, the threat of being persecuted or even killed by a new regime. Sometimes they flee because home has been destroyed, as with the migrants who poured into Europe from Syria a few years ago, or to shelter their children from violence, to provide their children with better opportunities for a good life. Of course, we know immigrants have been center stage in the news these past few weeks, with ICE mounting operations in various cities. Colleagues of mine have been showing up at the Broadview Detention Center in Chicago, singing hymns and getting shot at with pepper balls for their trouble. ICE is working, grabbing brown people off the streets indiscriminately, all in the name of getting, quote, the worst of the worst, unquote, out of the country. Now, undeniably, it is easier for immigrants who appear white to blend in and become successful. Carlos Bulasan did not blend in. It is a simple fact, though, that this country was built by immigrants and their children. If you climb the branches of any of our family trees, we can find links back to countries just a few years ago or hundreds of years ago, countries left behind, whether by choice or by force. I said earlier, my heritage is primarily Dutch on my father's side and kind of mixed Anglo on my mother's side, with the first Gorgas arriving in these shores on the 1600s from Netherlands. So, many of us have cherished family traditions that are centered around food for Thanksgiving. My people leaned heavily on the classics. Good old American turkey and stuffing, potatoes, sweet potatoes with those little mini marshmallows on top, and corn, and canned cranberry sauce, 2 kinds. The jelly and the kind that had and pie, always lots of pie. My husband's family, who came here in the 20th century from Eastern Europe, they celebrate with a Slovenian holiday bread called potica. And every potica maker in the family puts their own spin on the recipe. It's a sweet dough that has a filling that's then rolled up. Really delicious. Our daughter in Chicago has hosted a baking party with friends in the past, and we're kind of planning a family potica party next year. So this Thanksgiving, I hope that you will enjoy abundance, both in food and in fellowship and friends and family, or enjoy spending some time alone. However you do, take advantage of the day to rest. But remember that a bounty is meant to be shared, not hoarded. That radical hospitality is the true message of our faith, as it is the true message of Jesus. Loving our neighbors and welcoming the stranger. So let us say a prayer with our actions to open the doors. Maybe stick a potato under one. Keep it open. Add an extra table. Extra place settings. Bend the moral arc of the universe a little closer toward justice. Justice in the shape of bread and freedom. So may it be. And I invite you to rise in body or spirit and sing hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life. invite you to join me in a litany of thanks. Let's join together and give thanks. For oceans with islands and meadows with flowers, volcanoes and waterfalls, snowstorms and sun, your part is, we join our voices in thanks. For dragonflies, butterflies, caterpillars on leaves, lizards, wild turkeys, and tigers and deer, we join our voices in thanks. For the trees in the forest, for acorns and rocks, for frogs and for snakes, for leaves and for moss, we join our voices in thanks. For sunset and seashells and starfish and sand, octopus, jellyfish, and hammerhead shark. For the huge solar system, the darkness of space, for planets and starlight, the world we all share. For horses and kittens, small bunnies and dogs, for babies and family, and knowing we're loved. And you are loved. The chalice flame is extinguished until once again ignited by the strength of our gathering in community with a commitment to justice and our hearts full of love. And I invite you to remain seated for the postlude.
I'm Gregory Mason. It's time for some announcements. We are partnering with First Presbyterian on a number of things. First, poinsettias can be ordered to beautify the sanctuary for Christmas Eve. The cost is $22 per plant. Please fill out a form and place it in the offering plate next week, or give it to me along with your cash or check donation by Sunday, November 30th. The plants will be on display in our sanctuary for our Christmas Eve service. You are then welcome to take your poinsettia home with you after the service. There is a link in the November Unifier to print out the form, or you can pick one up off the credenza over there. Another partnership with First Presbyterian will be 2 initiatives to help support the children and families of Julian Thomas Elementary School. First, holiday food cards. Selected families will each receive a gift card for Aldi so they can purchase the food items that their family needs. Donations in any amount are appreciated. Checks should be made payable to First Presbyterian Church and a note JT gift card on the memo line. You can also donate online through the First Presbyterian website. Donations are being collected through December 7th. Second, for Julian Thomas is a Christmas toy drive. We are collecting toys, crafts, and gift items for Julian Thomas School now through December 7th. There is a decorated box in Erman Hall for the donations. Every year, the teachers and staff identify students whose family are in distress and could benefit from having a brighter holiday. Our target gift price range is $10 to $30 per item. There are 2 more opportunities before Christmas to submit a paper raise right order next Sunday and December 14th. Please see me if you need a form. There will be a candlelight concert here at First Presbyterian on December 6th, a collaboration of the Choral Arts Society and First Presbyterian Music and More. Tickets are available through Choral Arts at choralartsonline.org. With the holidays approaching, it's time to think of our incarcerated friends. At coffee hour today, Patty Riemann and Joe Pooroy will have holiday cards and envelopes for you to sign and address to send to the people who are part of the Worthy Now prison ministry. December 11th is our Loss and Light Grief service with First Presbyterian Church here in the sanctuary at 7 p.m. Also on December 11th is the Racine Coalition of Peace and Justice annual banquet at 5:30 p.m. at Infusino's Banquet Hall. There is a link in today's email to get tickets. Looking further ahead, the service on December 21st will be our children's pageant, and we will have a Christmas Eve service on the 24th at 4:30 p.m. The church office will be closed Thursday and Friday for the Thanksgiving holiday. Next Sunday is the 5th Sunday of the month, and our Split the Plate collection will go to Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism. A note from the Offertory Outreach Committee. On the theme of generosity, we say thank you to the congregation for your very generous support. Last month, we contributed $1,276.50 to the Ostara Initiative, which is a Wisconsin prison birth project. Over the last 12 months, we have shared over $12,000 with worthy organizations. Offertory outreach is an important way for local organizations to meet us and for us to get to know them. Keep up the good work. If you need to reference the monthly Unifier email, there is a link in each Sunday's email that will take you to it. Be sure to check your monthly and weekly emails for more information on some of these announcements, along with community events and other news that are not announced here in church. Thank you to our volunteers today, our ushers, Sandy Berezowitz and Brana Wallman, our coffee hour hosts, Joyce Firebaugh, Joe Pooroy, and Patty Riemann, and our Zoom host, Anita Miller. That's all for announcements. Please join us in Erman Hall for coffee hour. If you're on YouTube, log into Zoom. The link is in today's email.